And I think that it's a really good point. So pretty much most students that plan on transferring to a four-year college will be required to take FYE 105, right? And the reason we've already kind of talked about would be to make sure that you're on the right pathway and that you're not, kind of blowing it. We have a lot of people that come in and they say, I just want to take my basics, right? And we're like, but basics for what? And they're like, I don't know yet. I'll decide that once I transfer. And I'm like, that's not the best strategy. Yeah. And you might want to figure out some of that ahead of time, right? So that's kind of the point of that. It's also usually taken a lot of times by the people that are pre-allied health, pre-healthcare. So a lot of people that are going into nursing, that are going into radiography, respiratory, health science technology, for example, it's actually a requirement on that plan. So there's a couple of different program plans that, you would take it if you were on that pathway. But primarily it's required for the associate in arts and the associate in science students. Yeah.
Well, and also you can't stress enough the benefits of building the foundation of those study skills, time management, things like that, before you get into classes where those things become incredibly valuable, like anatomy and physiology and things like that. If you can kind of, walk through the tall grass and kind of feel out your path and things like that and figure out, okay, well, I like this study method, well, this one doesn't work. It's much easier to have that experience in an FYE 105 class as opposed to a class where it's kind of much harder to figure that out for yourself if you don't know.
I can't express to you the number of just random questions I get as well. And that's okay. That's the point of the class, right? It's to be able to have someone you can ask those questions to, right? When midterms come out, right? What's my grade right now? How do I calculate my GPA? All of that kind of stuff. All of that's really, really important information, and it's okay to ask someone. You don't know what you're doing right now? Guess what? I'll help you figure it out, So that's a really big and important part there as well, to kind of have that guiding force. And I can't tell you the number of students that start the class, I don't want to say with a bad attitude, but I'm going to say questioning, really the relevance of the class or how it could be helpful. And then by the end, they completely have changed their tune, right? And they'll say it, and I kind of giggle every time I get one of those papers in, and they'll, they write a paper at the end. And in it says, I honestly started this class thinking it was kind of like
a waste of time.
Kind of either a waste of time or it was, just going to be a piece of cake or any of that kind of stuff. And I really learned so much, in this class. I had no idea. I've had students that have come in the entire semester, 15, 16 weeks of the semester. They've been like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to transfer to this college for this degree, and then transfer to this college for this master's degree. They've got it mapped. And then one of my students came in the very last week, literally for the final exam, comes in and is like, I decided I wanted to change my major. And I'm like, we got so far. Let's do it though. This is what you need to do now. So it's not so easy for everybody, right? Sometimes you think you have an idea in mind, and once you start learning a little bit more about it, you realize, never mind, I don't actually like that at all. And so it's really applicable to so many students, even if you don't think, it would be for you, or you think you'll figure all that out yourself, you will through the class. Yeah, through the research that you do in that class, it really helps you explore yourself and explore your interests and your work values and all kinds of things you never think about until you get there. And you realize, it's better to know now while you're going for the career pathway until you get into the career pathway and you kind of hate everything.
Yep, and it's hard to do it over again.
Yeah, and it's expensive to do it over again. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I went to school with way back when, 100 years ago, that we had, and I guess, it's not as bad. I think they get introduced to this much earlier, and because we introduce it here to our elementary education majors, but it used to be you go through all of your program, your bachelor's degree to your last semester, and that's when you would go out and do your student teaching. And I can think of so many people when I was in school and then when I was working at the college that would go through their whole program, get to their student teaching, and come in and they're like, I hate this. There is no way I can teach. And so we have learned something over the years that it needs to be introduced earlier, and I think our programs also try to really encourage that students seek out internships and job shadowing type experiences in areas in which they think they're interested in, to make sure that they can see themselves and visualize themselves actually doing that every day.
And do information interviews. We've done that before, where you call an employer or someone who works in the field, right, that you want to go into. And a lot of us know that. Like, that's how we think of what we want to do in life, is we see someone doing something that we think we want to do. So they call those people and they ask them a series of questions like, what do you like? What do you hate? What is an average day like to you? And you learn so much just even through that, like, small conversation, right? And so that's also a really good tool that we use as well. But I mean, it's so important to do that stuff early on. Most people don't think about it until later, whenever they think that, it's about time for me to actually start that job. But for me, that's exactly what happened, what Susan was talking about. I did an internship my very last semester, and for all intents and purposes, it was supposed to be something I loved. It was literally exactly everything that I could have asked for in an internship, and it was the worst thing I've ever done. And so then at that point, I'm like crying in any office they'll let me in. What do I do? I'm not here now. Help me figure this out. And so then, throughout life, it gets okay, right? You figure it out, you can do it. But the earlier you do it, the less stress and breakdowns that you will have.
You save a lot of crying.
Yeah, a lot of crying. I can't, yeah.
And that's the thing, is you don't want to end up being one of those people who's like, if I had it to do over again, I'd do it all over again.
Yeah.
It's being satisfied in your decisions and feeling like you have something that you can achieve and is realistic and is good for you, instead of looking back and being like, well, 4 years and, $20,000 later, and here I am again,
Yeah, and I think it's important. That's bringing it back to the FYE program. The FYE program kind of empowers you to make those decisions, to do that research, to talk to the people that you need to talk to, right, about what you need to talk to them about. Because if you don't, a lot of students just keep doing what they're told, right? This is the program plan that I've been told to follow, that is supposed to get me exactly where I think I want to be. And they never ask any other questions, right? They just start working towards what they think they want to do, and they take all of the classes that are necessary to get there. And then they get a little bit further and see people start telling them things that they didn't know, right? Or they start being introduced to whole ideas that they had no idea would be a part of this, right? And so the FYE program is so good at really helping plug you into the community. Right, they do, you guys do all kinds of stuff with the workshops, but not only that, the, Essential Skills Academy, and there's a ton of other little programs that are hidden in the FYE program itself, right? So all of that kind of stuff kind of leads you to that self-confidence in that, self-actualization is the best way I can put it, to do what you need to do and be confident in what you've done. And make it be yours, instead of, this person told me to come over here and ask you this question. So here I am.
Well, then validating that you're making the right choice. I can't count how many people, if they come in, it's their very first day or whatever, they're scheduling classes. I'm like, what do you want to do? I want to be a nurse. Fantastic. And then it's okay, well, why do you want to be a nurse? Well, my mom said I should be a nurse. I'll make a lot of money. Does your mom know what goes into it? Did your mom tell you these other additional things? And that's the thing is and I feel and we all fall into it, you know what I mean? It's easy to have your parents say, well, when I was your age, I would have done X, Y, Z, and you think, yeah, okay, I'm young, I could do that. Or, I haven't made any committed choices to this, I can do this. And then you get into it, like you said, and you're like, ooh, this isn't anything I like. I don't like any of this. This doesn't appeal to me. My mom wanted all her daughters to be nurses. My sister was a nurse, and then, she was always like, Lexi, you got to be a nurse. You got to go and be a nurse. And I was like, okay, do I? And then I looked into it. It was I hate this. I would not be a good nurse. I am not cut out for that kind of thing. And that's the thing is I feel like a lot of other people don't take the time to actually think, okay, is this really going to be something that's going to give me joy and fulfill me in a lot of different ways 10 years down the road or whatever. When you get in the middle of this program and it's the hardest, is it going to, is your why strong enough to push you through to the end and to get you over that hump? And I think the FYE program and the class especially working together in conjunction help you develop a why that is sound and resolute and that you can believe in, and then get you through that hump when it becomes the most difficult or when it becomes the most, trying and you're just ready to throw in the towel, and making sure that whatever you've chosen from the beginning is something that you feel confident in and that you're willing to go, the extra mile to do, so.
And there's a quote that I have, but I forgot who it was, like now I'm just blanking, but I actually use this in class, it's a video. And it's all about knowing your why. And people are like, okay, well, I have goals. Good for you. Like, that's great. That's a first step, right? But you have to know why you want to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. Because when you know your why, you're moving towards and through your purpose, right? That's why you want to do this. Obviously, you're going for it. You can know what you're doing, but really it's all about knowing why you're doing it, right? That goes back to me talking about just checking boxes off of your academic plan, right? Taking classes because someone told you to, right? The why shouldn't be, they told me to do this thing, so I'm doing this thing. The why should be, I want to get to this place, and I've got to do this to get there. And then you keep going, and that it helps you. You'd be surprised how much, of a better job you'll do, your performance will increase, all that kind of stuff, just because you know why you're doing something and why it's important, right? And that gets you so much further in life than just saying, well, I got to get it done.
Yep. Or my mom told me to.
Yeah, my mom told me to. Yeah.
My dad told me to, or whatever. Grandma, grandpa, whoever told me that this would make me a lot of money and I'd have it easy, or whatever the case may be.
Well, and what you really need to, what I always try to stress to students in the lift and in the classroom is for them to really think about what do you really like to do, and to try to help them find their passion, because that's what they're really looking for, is their passion. If they're passionate about something, and we can put them on the right track to get the groundwork and the foundation that they need in order to pursue their passion, then they're not ever going to work in their life. And my daughter, I have one daughter who was very lucky. She found her passion when she was 12 years old. And she truly feels like that she can't wait to get up and get to work, and works, all day, works hard. But that's really what you're looking for, is you're trying to find your passion. And the passion has got to be something that you just truly like to do. You love it. And that's kind of what we try to help students do. We're not always successful, but we try to at least get them started.
Well, I get a bunch of students, like the kids that I tutor, not kids, well, students, but they come in and talk to me and they're like, yeah, I'm taking anatomy. I absolutely hate this. Please help me. I don't think I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, calm down. I was like, it's okay to change your major. I started at Western. I was like, I'm going to study chemistry. I'm going to do chemistry. Oh, I'm never going to be a nurse. Oh my gosh. I took like 2 classes of chemistry. I was like, And then I worked at a hospital, saw what the nurses did, and I was like, that is what I want to do. But if they come in and talk to me and they're like, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do, I know I can send them to one of you all. And even Jeremy told me, he was like, we have like career tests that they can take a test and be like, you're more suitable with this career. And then you all can be like, well, here's a job shadowing opportunity. Like, it's okay. Don't freak out, please.
And you always have to like take that moment too of panic and really assess, am I panicking because I'm like having a moment of failing, right? Like, because that's a thing that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody gets where they want to go in the smoothest of ways, right? But if you actually really, really want that, you'll get there, right? If you really put in the time, the energy, and the effort. I believe that. I really do. So if you have anatomy and physiology, which is one of the toughest classes, I would say here, that we get feedback from a lot of students from, because it is a challenging class, but it's pivotal.
And data backs it up.
Data backs it up. So if you take that class and you struggle a semester and you're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, it starts to make you question just because this is the first time you've ever struggled in a class, right?
True.
Think about, push through for a second, right? Try to do your best. Try to talk to other people. Try to, get help in that class. Get back on track. And if you can do that and you still have that love and that passion for what it is that you want to do, keep going. But don't let a little tiny moment mess you up. And that's a lot of what the FYE program does. It's a lot of fires that you put out.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing, is like looking at something and saying, okay, here's where we are. Here's everything that's led up to this moment. Here's everything that is wrong right now. How can we undo all of this so that, when you wake up tomorrow, you're like, I'm going to class. I am not failing everything in my life. I am not going to absolutely, lose it when I get done. Everything, giving you that peace of mind that's like, okay, it's not as bad as it feels like. Because when you're by yourself and nothing's going right and you have nobody to kind of come to and be like, panic, absolute panic, yeah. And so, been there, want to prevent it. We all, I think, have been there in some capacity, and we're very passionate about being like, you don't have to do that. You know, you don't have to sit there and try and struggle by yourself and figure it out by yourself. And what am I going to do? How am I going to fix this kind of thing? It's like you can rely on other people who genuinely care that you have a positive experience and that you end up where you need to be. And that's the FYE staff, you know, and the FYE 105 instructors. You know, I feel like a student could go to any instructor and say, you know, we've been talking about this in class. It really resonated with me. I'm very confused now about what I want to do. I'm not sure. Can you help me? And they would be more than willing to help them, and would help them more than, you know, more than adequately, more than better than anything. So.
And my favorite part about being an FYE teacher is like 3 semesters later, getting like a call.
Oh yeah.
Or an email or something like that, and it just says old FYE student. And I got one recently, and they were like, I don't know if you remember me. It's like, how could I forget you? You know, we've been through so much together. And they're like, you know, I really want to start figuring out, you know, my career. I started down the pathway. I'm not here for it. I want to talk to someone about this. And we send them some assessments. We get them like the help that they need. Like we get them connected. And so that's just one of my favorite things, though, is that even though like you know in the semester, right, you may not necessarily get where you want to go or where we want you to be at the very end of the semester, but if you keep those things in mind and you remember, hey, these are the people on campus that are going to help me no matter what, then like, you know, 3 semesters later, you can be like, I don't know if you remember this, but I have no idea what I want to do, and I kind of need your help. We're still fully 100% here to help, you know.
And that's why we call it the FYE rather than first year experience, because it's so much more than a first year experience program and class.
Sometimes it's a second year experience.
Or a third.
Sometimes it's you transferred somewhere early and then you came back and you still need that experience, right? Sometimes it's you already went to the other college but you can't get answers from them, so you come back to us, you know. So
You stopped out for a little bit just to, you know, take some U time, and then you came back, and it's, you know, your 3rd year experience, and that's totally fine. Like you know, we're here and open to any situation, any circumstance. It's like, you know, it happens. Stuff happens, you get somewhere, and it's not where you want to be, but it doesn't mean you got to stay there.
And you really understand that here's like the end goal right here, right? And a lot of people are trying to get to that end goal, and every single person is going to take a different pathway to get there. It's going to take a different amount of time. Some things are going to be easy for some, while other things are going to be easy for the others, right? And that's really how it is. And I've told so many students this, right? That, you know, they're in the same class as another student, that person's doing okay, they're not doing okay. And so you got to put your work where you need to put your work, right? So like maybe they need to put their work right now into, you know, this upcoming test exam, right? You might need to put your work in yourself, right? In your study techniques and, you know, your coping mechanisms and all of that. You have to put your work where you need it right now. And that'll get you there, right? It's a different path for every single student. It might take some people longer than others, and that does not matter, right? We have non-traditional students that come in at the age of 60, and they're in here taking first-year experience courses because they want to completely change their career pathway. They're going to get where they want to go just as much as everybody else is, right? It looks different for every person. Doesn't mean one person's doing it right and the other person's doing it wrong, right?
And you might think that a 60-year-old doesn't fit in, or maybe not 60 even, but 50 or whatever, doesn't fit in with the typical traditional first semester student that has just come out of high school. We have found in the left that there is actually older students that hang out and talk to the younger, and they have good conversations.
Almost like they're the teacher sometimes.
And very good back and forth, and those, to me, that student learns a lot from talking to that individual, and they will listen to them and listen to their advice and all. So that's not a bad thing for a student if you're, you know, in class with an older person or vice versa.
Talk to them.
It really has. I've found that has worked very well.
I have too. I had a non-traditional student last semester, and one day in class, we were just like listening to stories that, you know, she had to say, like her, you know, daughter, her son, various, I mean, this has happened in several different classes, but they'll have stories that aren't just theirs, but they're their families, and everybody can still learn, and that's still a valuable experience. And so it's like, you know, everybody has a different perspective, and you can learn from everyone, really. It's like the end of the day, that's really what it is. And sometimes it's just nice to listen for like, you know, 10 minutes to what have you been through, right? Tell me about it, and how'd you get here? And, you know, and everybody kind of understands it's totally okay to go a different path.
When that harkens back to all the benefits that we've talked to, is just yet another one. It's like you're going to get exposed to different people, different ideas, different topics that maybe, you know, haven't entered your realm, you know, of thought or whatever. You know, you haven't been exposed to somebody who's that much older than you, who's doing the same thing as you are. It's kind of, it's different to you, and you're like, why? What are you doing? You know, talk to that person. Kind of be like, you know, why are you coming back? You know, things like that, because it can give you ideas and things that, you know, oh, I hadn't thought about that, you know, or anything. You're going to get exposed to things that perhaps you hadn't thought about, hadn't realized, and it's great. You know, the FYE program and the class pride ourselves on giving you the perspective of other people to make sure that you know, how these other people are thinking, feeling, what they've been through, you know, how that relates to you and why that's important. You know, not just keeping you in your little bubble of existence where, you know, everything you've been told as you grow up and whatever, but saying, you know, okay, you believe this, why do you believe that? Why do you think that? Or why do you feel like that happens for that reason? Whatever the case may be, you know, just making sure you get those outside perspectives and you're not just getting fed, you know, the same thing you've always been told, but really getting to the heart of it and being like, actually, the world is very diverse, and here's where you should explore it.
And that's, that's a big benefit of this podcast as well. And that's a big part of college, is putting students in, sometimes in some uncomfortable situations where they have to question, well, this is the way it is. Is it really? Or this is what I believe. Do you really?
Is it black, white, or is there this new color called gray?
Yeah.
You just found out about. Yeah.
So, and that's okay. That's part of figuring out who you really are. And just because you were raised an independent or a Democrat or a Republican, is that really how you feel? And why do it? Oh, is it? Well, then why do you feel that way? You know, so it's put you in situations to where you really question yourself, and you have to listen to other people and sometimes agree to disagree, including your own family members at times.
Yeah.
Growth. Kind of the tag word I use with FYE in general is like, you gonna grow. Like, as a person, as a professional, you know, as a student, like, you gonna grow. And so that's the beauty of it.
If you let yourself.
Yeah. Well, and if you're open to it and you take it seriously and you listen to the people who've gathered to share this information with you and give you this opportunity to grow and to change. And, you know, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about college is like, who you are when you start doesn't have to be who you are when you leave. You know, there's every single day.
And it oftentimes isn't.
Yeah, and like every single day is an opportunity to be the person you always thought you would be, or you always wanted to be. You know, a kinder, more educated, more worldly, you know, more knowledgeable person, you know, every day. Every time you go to class, that's an opportunity to do something nice for somebody, or to learn something, or to ask a question you never thought you'd get the answer to. You know what I mean? Like, there's always opportunities presenting themselves, you know, to be the person that when you were a child, you were like, that's what I want to be, you know, and if that person's changed, it's fine, you know, but there's really no reason to stay exactly the same when you've got, you know, all the access to everything that you do through college.
And we try to preach this in the left, we try to preach it in the Win Center, everywhere, with the FYE program, the classes, but we try to encourage students, if you're going to be there, then be there. Be involved and be into whatever the class is, or and whatever the topic is at the moment. Get as much out of it as you can, because you're paying for it.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
They take that money out one way or another, so you may as well make the most of it.
Yeah, and go to as many opportunities while you're on campus for free food as you can. That's something I teach everyone.
And it's everywhere. Well, not now.
Not
but
anymore.
Yeah.
Not now, but before it was everywhere. There was always something going on.
There is going to be a beginning and a middle and an end to this COVID-19 So we hope we're near the end.
We'll get the snacks back.
We'll get the snacks back, yeah.
Another opportunity that students can utilize here at the FYE to kind of plug what I do is the FYE Student Club, because, you know, it's free. Sometimes we have snacks. It's another way for you to hang out and, you know, get answers, get volunteer hours, because I know, coming from experience in the nursing program, you have to have certain volunteer hours for your portfolio. And it also looks good whenever you're applying for that job after you've graduated, because, you know, maybe that person has the same degree as you, but you've put yourself out in the community and gotten involved, and you were in clubs and involved in college. So, like, you can come join the FYE club, come talk to me or any of these people in the program. But I think that's about it.
Well, we had an instructor kind of echo that and say, you know, Jeremy Johnson, you heard us mention his name earlier. He's the director of EOC in the interim for Student Support Services right now. Fantastic guy. His program is fantastic, both of them. He kind of mentioned, you know, he sits on the board for scholarships and for different interview committees and things like that. And he was saying, you know, when you have that extracurricular activity, when you have gone above, you didn't just go to class, go home, go to class, go home. You know, you put in the extra effort. You went to the club meeting. You participated in an event. You had fun. You made friends. You know, that to him in his work in that, you know, field says you went that extra mile. You know, you did what you needed to and, you know, what you wanted to help people and to show initiative and to show responsibility and to be accountable for something. And those things do go a long way with employment and scholarships and programs, honor societies we have here on campus, all kinds of different things.
Not to mention the people you might meet along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Really important. And the, you know, faculty or staff member that might be leading your group or your organization, you can get to know them a little bit better. Either way, like the club members that you're with can teach you a thing or two. But guess what? The faculty and staff know a couple things as well. And you might be able to plug into them and use them as a resource. And let's say you're doing a community event and you're super involved. You might meet someone from a place you might work at one day, you know? And all those things add up together, right? If you can make your name a little bit more familiar, or at least a couple more people know you, get one of those cherished references that are so needed nowadays. Like, all of those things add up together. So really, if you can be involved, even if it's just in one thing, but that one thing becomes something that you're really involved in, that you have a passion for, and you do what you can for that one thing, that's going to be better than a superficial involvement with 3-4 things.
Yep.
Right. That way you can actually show this is what I did, but this is the organization that I joined, but this is what I did with that time. That's going to look so good whenever you.
When all else is equal, in an interview situation, a job you want, and all else is equal, oftentimes it'll come down to those little things that you did that separates you from the other candidate that might have done equally as well on the interview, might have the same degree that you have, and grade point if that's even on there, and so on and so forth. And it'll come down to those extra things that will separate you and ultimately get you the job. And it's important what Brianna brought up too, is networking. That is so important as you go through college and as you go through life. That is really where you find your best opportunities, is being able to learn how to network with people. And it all starts on the college campus with the staff and the faculty.
And it starts out super uncomfy, right, for some of us. And then the further you get into it, the more people you talk to, you realize this isn't so terrible. You start to know a couple more people. Whenever you go to these functions and these events, or this volunteer opportunity, it'll be okay.
Oh, yeah.
Promise.
Well, experience and practice are the only way that you get better at anything. So it's like, go out there and start talking to people. You see a group gathered at a lunch table, you should be like, what's up? I go here, you go here. We already have something in common.
Our plug for socializing.
Yeah. And with the FYE Club, that is so accessible. It's free. It's very inclusive. We make a point to advertise it as much as we can because it is such a great opportunity. And a lot of times the friendships that are forged in that club last well outside of college.
It's also just fun.
Yeah, like movie nights, man, like popcorn, all kinds of stuff. Like, there's no reason not to join and not to have fun. And there's no reason to kind of waste your experiences here because you think, oh, it's a community college, they don't do anything.
We do.
Not true. We go out of our way to do things to make sure that, you don't feel like all you do is go to class, go home, go to class, go home.
And let me tell you, in a community college, if you show up to something, oh my gosh, the faculty, staff, club, whoever it is that threw that is so excited that you're just present. So come on, yeah, you will become like just the person to talk to, but they'll also give you your space if you want that. Not to intimidate you out of it, but that you will be like making someone's day by like coming and trying to be involved with something.
And although we have the pandemic going on, I think the FYE club has some activities and stuff, and they plan on doing their meetings virtually. So we are still going to do a lot of things virtual, so you can still be able to be involved. And hopefully one day this thing will end soon, and we will be together again.
Well, I think that is all the time we have today. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time.